Dear students and my teacher friends, Namaskar. I welcome you to the presentation lecture on alveolar sacs and alveoli. Now, in the beginning of the lecture, as you can see on the screen, I am showing you one concept map, and with the help of this concept map, you can track the inhale air, the atmospheric air in which the oxygen is present. So where this oxygen is going, so we can track. So first of all, in our nares, this atmospheric air enters, then cavity of our nose, the nasal cavity, then the air enters into the nasopharynx, then the oropharynx, then laryngopharynx, then trachea, then primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, multiple branches of bronchi, bronchiole, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, and finally alveolar sac. And the alveolar sacs, we know they are having the alveoli. And one more thing, here we know from the trachea various branches arises. For example, left and right primary main bronchi, then the secondary bronchi or the lobar bronchi, then the tertiary, and then all these branches. Okay, and one more thing, up to here, uh, up to here, we know this entire zone, this zone, okay, this zone is the conducting, this one is the conducting zone, and this one from respiratory bronchiole, so this one is the respiratory, this one is the respiratory zone. Okay, so this thing we are keeping in mind, and now we are starting this presentation lecture. So that is for your memory aid, that concept map. Now this is the title of today's presentation lecture: alveolar sacs and alveoli. Now the terminal dilation of alveolar duct. Dilation means the enlargement. Okay, so the terminal, that means which is present towards the end. Okay, so the end part of the alveolar duct dilates, and then alveolar sac is formed, and this alveolar sac looks like, this alveolar sac is analogous, that means the appearance of alveolar sac is like the cluster of grapes, many grapes together, okay, make a cluster. So the alveolar sac, they look like the cluster of the grape, and each alveolar sac is composed of outpouching, and these outpouchings are known as the alveoli. And we can compare this alveoli with the individual or the single grape. So in simple term, the way the grapes joins together and make the cluster of grape, and if we pluck one grape from the cluster, so in our hand we will be having a single grape. So similar way, so that is the alveoli. We can compare this alveoli with the single or the individual grape. Okay, and many alveoli together, they form the alveolar sac. So in the figure I am showing you this point so that you can get the clear idea about that, what they are saying. For example, over here, see in this figure, here the terminal bronchiole is shown, then the branch of terminal bronchiole, that branch is known as the respiratory bronchiole, and over here you can see this one is the dilation, this is the dilation of this is the, over here this is the alveolar duct they are showing, and then alveolar duct this part, okay, this is the enlarged part, and this entire portion is known as the alveolar sac. And in the alveolar sac, you see these are all alveoli. So these are all alveoli here, alveoli, okay. So this is the meaning of the first point. I'm showing you the entire figure to you so that you can have the clear idea regarding the alveolar sac. So this one is the alveolar sac, and you see the individual alveoli. So the cluster of alveoli, they are forming the alveolar sac. Okay. Now moving on the second point of our discussion. Now here one histological slide is shown on left hand side, and you see at the bottom it is written detail of several alveoli. So alveoli, many alveoli, and the cross section of alveoli is shown to us. And you see this is the wall of alveoli, and in the wall various kind of cells are present. So now in the second point we are discussing which kind of cell that are present in the wall of the alveoli. So the wall of each alveolus, singular alveoli, so the wall of each alveolus consists of two types of alveolar epithelial cell. Large number of type 1 alveolar cell are present, and this type 1 alveolar cell, they are actually the squamous pulmonary epithelial cell, and they are the simple squamous epithelial cell, and they form a nearly continuous lining of the alveolar wall. So we can say simply, in the alveolar wall, type 1 alveolar cells are present, and this cell are the squamous pulmonary epithelial cell. So in the figure, let's see this cell. So over here you can see this one is the type 1 alveolar cell, and I am zooming this so that you can see it properly. So here this one is the type 1 alveolar cell. Now besides the type 1 alveolar cell, there present the type 2 alveolar cell in the alveolar wall, and this type 2 alveolar cell, they are also known as septal cell. However, this cell, septal cell, they are fewer in number in comparison with the type 1 cell, and this type 2 alveolar cell, they are present, they found between the type 1 alveolar cell. So in between the type 1 alveolar cell, few type 2 alveolar cells are also present, and they are known as septal cell. So in the figure, let's see this type 2. So this is the wall, and in the wall you can see type 2 alveolar cell. Now in this figure also, for example, this is the entire wall of alveolus. Okay, this is the wall of alveolus, and in the wall you see this one. This is the type 1 alveolar cell, and over here this one is the type 2 alveolar cell. So this type 2 alveolar cell is also known as the septal cell. So now we are moving on the fourth point of our discussion. Now the thin type 1 alveolar cell, type 1 cell, they are the thinner one, and this type 1 alveolar cell, they are the main site of gas exchange, means exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. we are remembering this type 1 alveolar cell are the main site for the gas exchange to occur to take place. Type 2 alveolar cell, they are the rounded or the cuboidal shape epithelial cell, and on the free surface of this type 2 alveolar cell there present the microvilli. This type 2 alveolar cell, they secrete alveolar fluid, and what the role this alveolar fluid is playing, that it is keeping the surface between the cell and the air moist. So the secretion of fluid from the type 2 alveolar cell is keeping the surface between the cell moist and the air moist. So here we have discussed the type 1 and type 2 alveolar cell and their role. Now moving on the fifth point of our discussion. Now, as we have learned in the fourth point about the alveolar fluid, now in this alveolar fluid included surfactant. So surfactant is present in alveolar fluid, and what is this surfactant? So surfactant is a complex mixture of phospholipid and the lipoprotein. And what is the function of this surfactant? So surfactant lowers the surface tension of alveolar fluid. Okay, surfactant, what they are doing? They are lowering the surface tension of the alveolar fluid, and this reduce or lowering of surface tension reduces the tendency of alveoli to collapse. So due to the surfactant, as the surface tension is lowered, what happens? Alveoli is not collapsing. Collapsing means alveoli is not constricting, and thus maintain their patency. That means alveoli are not constricted and alveoli remains open. Okay, alveoli remain enlarged, alveoli remain dilated, so the atmospheric air, the inhaled air, can easily enter into this alveoli. Okay, that is the meaning of this fifth point. Now moving on the sixth point of our discussion. Now in the alveolar wall, alveolar macrophages are also present, and these alveolar macrophages are also known as the dust cell. So in the figure I am showing you alveolar macrophage cell. See over here, alveolar macrophage. This is the green color cell they are showing. Okay, this is the alveolar macrophage. One minute. So we are discussing the sixth point. So we have just seen the alveolar macrophage cell, that is known as the dust cell, and this macrophage, they act as the phagocyte, and they are removing the fine dust particle. The function of this macrophage or the dust cell is to remove the dust particle and some unwanted cellular debris from the alveolar space. So this is the function of macrophage dust cell. They are acting as a phagocyte, removing fine dust particle and other debris from the alveolar spaces. Then the fibroblast cell. So the fibroblasts, they produce reticular and elastic fiber. Now, underlying the layer of type 1 alveolar cell is an elastic basement membrane. So under the type 1 alveolar cell, elastic basement membrane is present. And in the figure I am showing you this elastic basement membrane. So here you see, this is the alveolus, space of the alveolus, and this one is the wall of alveolus. This is the entire wall of alveolus, and you see in the wall here type 1 alveolar cell is shown. Over here also you see this cell, this cell is the type 1, and this cell, this is the type 1 alveolar cell. So type 1 alveolar cell is shown, this one, okay, and this one is the epithelial basement membrane. So underlying the type 1 alveolar cell, the epithelial basement membrane is present. So that is the meaning of the 6th point. Now we are discussing the 7th point. Okay, 1 minute. One minute, the point will come. Okay. So this is the 7th point of our discussion, and on the outer surface of the alveoli, the lobules, arteriole and venule, they disperse into network of capillary. So on the surface of alveoli, what is present? Arteriole is there, venule is there, and together this arteriole and venule, they are forming a fine network of blood capillary. And in the wall of this blood capillary, single layer of epithelial endothelial cell are present, and the basement membrane is present. So in the figure I am showing you this thing. In this figure you see here this blue color, okay, this blue color duct is the pulmonary arteriole. That means and blue color they are using, that means it is bringing the deoxygenated blood, okay, or the blood which is rich in CO2. So pulmonary arteriole. And here, over here, what is happening? This pulmonary arteriole is forming this tiny, very minute blood capillary. And where these capillaries are present? So capillary network around alveoli. So on the surface of the alveoli, this capillary network is present, and this capillary, what they are doing, they are merging together, and they are forming the pulmonary valve. Now one thing we need to understand over here, when the blood came on the surface of this alveoli, so earlier it was having the blue color, and now gradually over here what is happening, the color is changing and it is becoming red. So that means the exchange of gases CO2 and O2 is taking place between this capillary blood and the alveoli. That is the meaning of this thing, and how this is going to happen, that thing we are going to discuss now. And in the point number 7, we have just learned that which type of cell are present. So over here, as you can see in the cross section, this one is the one blood capillary, and what is there in the wall of capillary. So we assume this is the blood capillary, and this one is the wall of blood capillary. So in the wall of blood capillary, what is present? Capillary endothelium and capillary basement membrane. So inside endothelium cells are there, and outside basement membrane. So this was the seventh point regarding the capillary network and which type of cells are present in the capillary. Okay, now we are discussing the eighth point of this lecture. Now, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, where it is taking place. So the air spaces in the lung and the blood takes place diffusion across the alveolar and capillary wall, and they are forming the respiratory membrane. Now what they are saying, where now we need to understand over here what is there. See over here, this is the space of alveolus, and here oxygen is present, and in the capillary blood is rich in CO2. This capillary blood is rich in CO2. Now what happens? You see the wall of alveoli and the wall of capillary. So I am showing you this is the wall of alveoli, and this is the wall of capillary. So together these two wall, they are forming the respiratory membrane. Okay, so all this structure, all these four names. So this this portion is the respiratory membrane, and from this respiratory membrane, as you can see, the exchange of O2 and CO2 by the process of diffusion is taking place. So this is the eighth point. Okay, this is the eighth point of our discussion, and now we are elaborating this eighth point. So now in the ninth point we are discussing the respiratory membrane. So which are the cells or the structures and where this respiratory membrane is present. So in the respiratory membrane, alveoli wall we are considering, and the capillary wall is considering. Okay, so in the alveolar wall, we know type 1 cell are there, type 2 alveolar cell are there, and the macrophages are there. Then besides this cell, epithelial basement membrane is there. So these two point number 1 and 2 alveolar wall. Okay, and this now point number 3 and 4. So here this is the capillary, this is the alveolar wall, this is alveolar wall, and this is the capillary. So in the capillary basement membrane, okay, is often fused to the epithelial basement membrane. So in the capillary, forget this thing. Now in the capillary there is a basement membrane, okay, and in the capillary there is the capillary endothelium. So now in the figure we are seeing this. Over here you see, first of all let's discuss this is the capillary. This pink color, this is the wall of capillary. So inside this capillary endothelium cell are present, and outside you see the capillary basement membrane. Okay, then now this side, alveolus side we are discussing. So in the wall of alveolus you see type 1 alveolar cell. This is the type 1 alveolar cell. Here you can see the nucleus, type 1 alveolar cell, and then underlying this type 1 alveolar cell, there present the epithelial basement membrane. So epithelial basement membrane, type 1 alveolar cell, capillary endothelium, capillary basement, all these four together, they are forming the respiratory membrane, and this respiratory membrane is the main site for the exchange of the gases, okay, O2 and CO2 by the process of diffusion. So that is the meaning of point number 9. And now we are on the final point of our discussion. point number 10. Okay, so even though there are several layers in the respiratory membrane, the respiratory membrane is very thin, and this respiratory membrane is having only a thickness of 0.5 micron. Okay, and this thickness is about the 1/16 the diameter of red blood cell, that is the RBC. And since this membrane is very thin, what happened? Rapid diffusion of gases. So from capillary, CO2 very rapidly diffuses into the alveolar space, and from the alveolar space, oxygen diffuses very rapidly into the capillary blood. Okay, then it has been estimated that both the lungs, they contain 300 to 500 million alveoli, and together this 300 to 500 million alveoli that are present in both the lung, they are having the immense surface area, and this surface area of all the alveoli together, it is about 75 square meter, or in terms of foot, in terms of it, 807 feet square. So that is the area of all the alveoli surface together. So if we calculate the surface area of this alveoli, so this area is approximately having the size of the racquetball court. So the racquetball court size is the size of all the alveoli surface together. Now what is this racquetball court? So racquetball game is similar to the tennis ball game. Now in this racquetball game, generally this is the indoor game, and in this indoor stadium, there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5 walls are there. Okay, and 2 players are playing, and in this game the player is hitting the tennis ball on the wall, and then the second player is going to hit the tennis ball, and then so this way the game they are playing. So the alveoli, the number of alveoli, so 300 to 500 million alveoli. So the surface of alveoli is approximately very close to the court of the racquetball. Okay, and since the hundreds of millions of alveoli are present in the lung, so the lungs are having the spongy texture, means the lungs are very soft. Okay, when if someone touches the, let's say the surgeon, if touches the lung, so he will find the lungs are very spongy, very soft. Now before we wind up this lecture, I would like to show you some good figures, so that you can have the clear idea of this entire presentation lecture. All the figures are very neat one, so all the names you go through. Okay, and here you see anatomy of the respiratory zone. Okay, and with the dotted line you see the conducting zone. So the terminal bronchiole, up to the terminal bronchiole, so starting from the nares to the nasal cavity and the trachea and all this thing and all the branches, so up to the terminal bronchiole, it is the conducting zone. Okay, and from the respiratory bronchiole, so this part is the respiratory zone. So in the respiratory zone, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, then the alveolar sac, then alveoli, all these they are included in the respiratory zone. So all the names you go through, okay, all the names you read and try to remember all the names. Then in the previous lecture we have seen this figure. This is also a very important one. Okay, you see the position of where the terminal bronchiole is there, then this blue color branch of pulmonary artery, then the bronchiole they are showing. Okay, terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar duct, alveoli, blood capillary, pulmonary valve, everything is shown. Pulmonary arteriole. Okay. Then this figure. Okay. All the names you read. Okay. Respiratory zone they are showing, and on the left hand side the histological slide is also shown. Then this one. Okay. Terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, smooth muscle, elastic fiber, alveolus, capillary. Then you see this. Okay. Detailed anatomy of the respiratory membrane. And over here you see the respiratory membrane is shown. Okay. Alveoli and the respiratory membrane. So all the cell you see, capillary, macrophage. Understand? Now this figure, okay. Alveolar type 1, type 2 cell, macrophage, pores, everything is shown. Erythrocyte in the capillary. Then on right hand side, the respiratory membrane. So they have zoomed that respiratory membrane, okay, and you see the diffusion of CO2 and O2. This is the information. Then this is the histological slide for the alveolar wall and the alveolar cell. And you see the alveolar wall, type 1, type 2 cell are shown, dust cell are shown, capillaries are shown, inter-alveolar septa is shown, okay, smooth muscle fiber, everything is shown. And here some information, if you are interested you can read this information, and all the numberings are they have explained over here. So this thing. And one more histological slide I would like to show you. This is the alveolar wall, and here at the bottom the key is given. For example, A for alveoli, C for capillary, then alveolar cell 1 in the new Roman numerical they are writing, and the alveolar type 2 cell, then the M for macrophages, they are known as dust cell, and this is the histological slide. So the wall of alveoli is shown, different type of cell, the capillary is shown, okay. Then this is the ultrastructure of the blood air barrier. Okay. So all the names, if you are interested you can go through this figure. You see where the capillary is, where the alveoli is, C for capillary, A for alveoli, and F for fibroblast. Okay. So the entire respiratory membrane you can understand. Then this is the ultrastructure of type 2 alveolar cell. Just for your information. And this is the type 2 alveolar cell. Okay, function of the type 2. So we know, see over here they are showing surfactant extruded from the lamellar body, and inside you see the RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi body, and then there is a formation. And so protein synthesis, then the Golgi body, then the secretory vesicle, and this exocytosis process, and the surfactant, they are released. Okay, so just for your information, how they are producing this surfactant. So with this we have completed this presentation lecture on alveolar sacs and alveoli. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation lecture, and I also hope that this presentation lecture will be helpful in your exam preparation and also in your studies. My name is Manish Kosti sir. I am from Ahmedabad, India. Bye bye. Namaste.